Joining me now is Gemma Tognini and Angela Mollard. Gemma, every year, gorgeous footage from the Chelsea Flower Show. How big a deal really is it?
Oh, it is the big deal. I mean, I remember when I was in London a couple of years ago being mildly annoyed that I missed it by a whisker. It is the quintessential royal event, up there with Royal Ascot, obviously, because the late Queen was an absolutely avid horse racing fan and horse racing participant as an owner, of course. So it really doesn't get much more royal or much more British, dare I say, than the Chelsea Flower Show. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's wholesome. I think it's great for the British economy as a tourism destination and as a tourism event. I don't think there's anything not to love about this.
This is true. And I think this year, perhaps we managed to get away without any activists or protesters. Occasionally they do show up. Angela, another appearance from David Beckham this year, amongst others, to support the Royals. What else was notable?
Oh, look, this was one of those occasions where, you know, you've got the King of England and you've got David Beckham, who is virtually British royalty as well. And some people are talking about this like it's a bromance between the King and David Beckham, but I'm seeing it very much as David really stepping in almost like a surrogate son to the King. They've become incredibly close since David became an ambassador for the King's Foundation last year. And one of the reasons that Beckham was at this event is that he's helping the King with a campaign to get more young people into horticulture. We know that Victoria and David Beckham were at an event, a state dinner at Buckingham Palace last December. Then in February, they were at an event at Highgrove. Now, I don't know if this is because this is the King really knowing that Beckham is a huge royalist. I mean, he's the man, of course, that stood in the queue with the public. He didn't sort of pull any strings. He stood for 13 hours in the queue to see the Queen when she was lying in state after her death. So I think there's a bit of recognition there that their profiles are good for each other.
The talk continues. I like the comment about the surrogate son, though, Angela. I think that's a really, really good point. But the talk continues about when and whether David Beckham will be knighted. I mean, come on, we must be getting close.
I don't understand why he hasn't already been, to be honest. And everything that Angela just said about him and the way he behaves and the way that he conducts himself, it lends itself to that whole idea of what a knighthood should be. Not just the standing in line, which I think just really spoke to so many people about his authenticity. The fact that he and Victoria have built their lives from very, very humble, normal beginnings and continue to live what appears to be a really close, you know, normal as normal can be for a family of that stature kind of life. I think, you know, who's to know? I don't know where the applications go in and who's on the selection committee, but it would seem to me that sooner rather than later is going to be or rather should be, the right decision.
Yeah, agreed. Angela, still with the Beckhams, and we continue to hear more about the summit between the Sussexes and the junior Beckhams over in LA. What's the latest?
Look, this was called a summit, and how it initially was presented was that these two couples, these sort of disenfranchised members of both of their families, had huddled together in LA, sort of, you know, against the mighty powers back in England. That's not quite how it was. This was a dinner hosted by Tracy Robbins, who's the CEO of Paramount, but David Beckham works a bit with Paramount. There were a lot of other people at the dinner as well. We don't know to what extent they spoke to each other, but there's no question that the optics on this, both couples would have known, Brooklyn and his wife Nicola and Meghan and Harry, will both be seeing themselves as victims and wanting to get ahead of the narrative. Of course, David and Victoria Beckham have always talked up their closeness as a family, and of course we know that Brooklyn didn't turn up to any of the events to celebrate his father David's 50th. So there's a lot of parallels within these two families. The fact that they got together, of course we're going to be talking about it. It's an extraordinary story, but the fact is it wasn't just a dinner between the four of them.
No, that surprises precisely no one. And now on to the Sussexes proper, and Gemma, Meghan's podcast. We now have weekly instalments of what's been said on her podcast. Although, you know, this week she did make some very interesting observations about motherhood. Here they are.
Always wanted to be a mom. Before I was a mom, I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to give a speech with a baby on my hip. I had a whole vision. I was like, I'm just going to, and then you fast forward, granted, I had a lot of external things happening by the time I had both pregnancies and both babies, but it was not the way I envisioned it.
She gets criticised a lot, Jem. I would say that there's probably a lot of mums who found out that motherhood quite wasn't what they expected. So, you know, is this one of her more authentic moments that you know, other women, other mothers would broadly share?
Do you know what I reckon? That's actually the most authentic I've personally ever experienced her. That being said, I don't listen to her podcast and try not to, hate myself for following a bit of the Sussex news, but hey, a girl's only human. But I do think this is the most authentic we've seen her. She's expressing, I think, the universal human condition. Out of all of my friends who have become mothers, I can't think of a single one who has said, oh, wow, it's exactly what I expected. I'm nailing it. It's so good. I know exactly what I'm doing. And this child has fitted seamlessly into my pre-existing life, which has required no changes at all. I mean, that just doesn't happen. You know, child comes out of your lady parts and life changes forever. Yeah. And I just think good on her. Give credit where it's due for being that authentic about the fact that it is nothing like what she expected it to be.
Yeah, when I heard that myself, Jem, I thought that was definitely one of the moments where she was a little more effortless and a little less trying.
It wasn't contrived. It
was
very like, oh my God, this is what happened to me.
Not the whole podcast though, obviously. But anyway, she has her moments and we'll give her credit where it's due. Angela, she also made some comments about what it's like running a business.
So I think you guys know I really like being in the garden. And running a business, funny enough, it's a lot like gardening. Some seasons are for blooming, others are for planting seeds, but most of the work, especially early on, it's tending to the soil, it's the foundation, it's what everything is going to grow out of.
Angela, there's been plenty of criticism about her business efforts so far. I don't think that this helps. What's your view on obviously what she said, but also that there's ongoing commentary around her business efforts?
That's right. Look, she really murdered that metaphor, didn't she? It went on and on and on. And this is one of the things that I think she hasn't quite grasped is that if you raise an idea, just raise it really crisply. She just goes on. And I mean, I have listened to a couple of her podcasts because I've have to. But the point is, compare business to gardening. Well, there's a lot of people out there that set up businesses and they don't have seasons where they have, time to sow the earth. They're actually flat out just trying to keep staff. So I think that analogy was a really misplaced and it, as I say, went on for too long. She has had huge amounts of criticism in the last couple of weeks. What's one of the things I think is a PR expert came out and said the trouble with Meghan is that to become relatable, you have to be authentic to start with. So she's not hitting the authentic points, so then she's not getting the relatability, and then she's not getting the likability. And he was sort of making the point that this is the way that it flows, and it's not flowing this way for her. There was also a Saturday Night Live thing about the trade situation between the US and the UK, and there was a skit about the fact, well, all Britain will insist upon is that America keeps Harry and Meghan, that they're not coming back for them. There's all these, we've seen this so often in popular media that they have become the laughingstock. Ryan Reynolds, in fact, someone of his stature, was making the note that his dad worked in the food industry, and he was sort of saying his dad was Meghan Markle adjacent. That she's done this for 2 seconds and she's only done this for a couple of minutes, and she's speaking so authoritatively about what she does. And I think a little bit more grace and modesty wouldn't go astray.
No, probably not. Jem, Harry and Meghan have celebrated their 7th wedding anniversary this week. She's put together a collage of previously unseen photos. What are your thoughts?
Well, I just looked at it and thought, is that the mood board from my bedroom when I was 16? Because it looks a little bit like it. It's really, I think maybe whoever advises her, because I certainly don't think she does any of this stuff herself, whoever advises her was probably thinking with social media in mind. So thinking, how can we create something that will be liked, shared, and, the traction around that. you know, again, it actually feeds into exactly what Angela was just talking about, the whole, you have to be authentic to start with. I think that's what people love so much about the Prince and Princess of Wales, is when they post a photo, whether it's an anniversary photo or a photo of Charlotte's birthday or the children's birthday, it's something that Kate has taken herself. And it's a real family photo. It's not contrived. Like, that is just like, dear Dolly. I mean, if anyone's watching old enough to remember Dolly. But just to the previous point about her business, I mean, I've been in business, as you know, Caro, for 22 years. And to hear her talk such crap about, I mean, I can't tell you if I ever just spent time sitting around gazing at my seed and wondering how great it's going to grow. No. Seriously, that was just the biggest load of poppycock I've heard in a very long time. But nice pics on the collage board. Fabulous pics on the collage board. And finally, Angela, I've only got about 30 seconds left. We understand the Sussexes are back negotiating a new deal with Netflix. What do we know?
This is the word coming out of this is that it is going to be renewed. It's hard to believe that it would be because, of course, the Harry and Meghan show that was initially completely did brilliantly on streaming figures, but everything else since hasn't done that well, including with Love Meghan. But Ted Sarandis, the head of Netflix, is said to be wanting to re-sign her. He's a massive fan of Meghan. The one thing I'd say, Caroline, is that whatever she does, it gets a lot of attention, and that's got to be a reason to re-sign.
Well, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. She gets a run every week on this show, that's for sure. Angela Mollard, Gemma Tognini, thank you so much.